Hello, welcome back to All for United. Man United 3, Forest 0. Quite an easy win in the end. There were some patchy moments, which I'm sure we're going to get into, but we did get over the line in the end, and it's looking much better for the second leg, which we're going to get into as well. Obviously, we're going to split this in half, so we've got the Reading preview and the second half of this show. So we will talk a little bit about that as well. It all kind of intertwines into one. Games are kind of merging into the next one at the moment with the amount that we've got coming up. So we'll start with Forest. I'll just ask each of you a simple question, just your kind of initial reaction to the game, really, and how you thought on the win. So Hammer, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a nice little win. I think if, at the strength that we went, I think people were expecting us at least to get a win, But I think the 3-0 was a nice little scoreline. Um, it was a good thing because I think it gives more confidence in this team. And then, of course, like everybody has been talking about, that whole thing about we need a trophy, and I do agree. Obviously, there's certain people in the team who have vast experience with winning trophies, but a lot of the team still needs that experience with getting the job done. So whether it's this or the FA Cup, or the Europa League, I think it's a good step towards that goal. And I know we're all going to probably talk about it as its topic as well. But God damn it, Rashford, that goal had me jumping out my seat.
I didn't realise I was still on mute then. Yes, we are going to talk about Rashford because we have to with the form that he's on at the moment. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, we are going to get into the goals a little bit in a little bit more detail. But Stu, throw it over to yourself. Just your brief initial thoughts off the back of the win.
Below par. I didn't think we were fluid. I thought it was just an average game of football, really. Once you come out of the blocks, you score after 3 minutes, something along those lines. Forest were never really going to get back into the game. I know Ten Hag was kind of, I'm in an hour and about whether or not we had enough control over the game, etc. But we're not fluid at the minute. We're not connecting. Casemiro again, subpar performance for him for his standards that he set. But again, you can excuse that. Ericsson was okay. I thought Bruno was okay. Drifted in the game. So I think all in all, you do one or two things in cup football. Certainly, when you get to semi-final, you win the first leg if it's away, and obviously you want it to be away because it gives you momentum for going forward. So, it didn't really. I played in so many games of that type. It's just we're on autopilot now. This is the problem with our players. It was Arsenal. It was Forest, it's Reading, it's Forest. It's a difficult period for us at the minute. We're playing virtually every other day, it seems, at the minute. So it's almost, the lads are they're hardly training. They won't be doing very much at all in training. It'll all be, meetings and tactics and things and just warming down and warming up for games now. We need a break. Something's got to give. Something will give because our squad isn't big enough to keep fighting on all four fronts. So, if I'm Ten Hag, Van der Gaag, I'm looking at where I can win and where I don't necessarily need to win. That's what I'm doing now to get us through this clump of games. So once that was put to bed, Rashford, we'll talk about him. I know is in this vein of form at the moment. So that kind of gave us the real start. But other players have now got to step up. The whole squad has got to step up. And herein lies the juggling act, I'm afraid, for Eric. So I didn't expect a vintage performance, but you don't care in semi-final football anyway. You just take it. Just take the result. And that's what we did. We got the result.
Go on, John.
I think it's one of those. It wasn't the perfect performance, but it was the perfect result, I think, because it's almost practically done. I think Bruno's goal at the end there pretty much, I wouldn't say it sealed our tickets to Wembley, but it's as close to it being a reality as you hope. I think it was just professionalism from the team. I think that Rashford getting the early goal was good. And I think, it's a difficult place to go to Nottingham Forest. They were unbeaten in 8 at the City on, I was thinking it might be a tough game perhaps there, and there was no guarantees. Obviously, Liverpool lost there, and Chelsea had drawn. Tottenham got knocked out in the early round, so it's not an easy place to go. But we made it a comfortable evening. Obviously, Forest were well below par, and it was pretty easy. Was in the end, but yeah, I think for Ten Hag's perspective, given Rashford playing in for 6 minutes, getting a goal, getting some of the youngsters in, and seeing this high off, I think he couldn't have really asked for a better night. I don't think.
No, there's a lot of points to unravel there, but I want to start with Rashford because obviously that was the opener, and just talk a little bit about him, because a lot of people are saying this is a form of his life at the moment. Obviously, we know how he burst onto the scene. He went on a good run of form then, pretty much scoring on every type of debut possible. So I'll just ask you that question really to each of you. Obviously, talk about the goal as well, but is this the best form that Rashford has been in? It's 10 in 10 now, I believe, since the World Cup. So Hammer, for you, obviously talk about the goal as well, but is this Rashford's best form that we've seen at United?
So yeah, first the goal. I think him making that run was also shows the level of confidence, right? Because like you could be playing well, but sometimes you're still just making sure you're doing the right thing. He is just on a confidence level that if he sees an opportunity, he's putting his head down and going after it, which I think we all wanted to see from him, because there was times, right, when he wasn't playing well, he was like, okay, let me try to dribble here, and then he gets stuck, and it blows the whole play up. And I think, again, with all of his goals recently, which is another thing that all of us used to talk about, is it's the quick decision making, right? Like he's making a move and then deciding if he's going to shoot or pass, instead of making a move and then making 2 or 3 more moves. And then in terms of, in terms of his best form, it might be, but for me, and I think this is like a side of me being a little bit of a nerd that I don't put out a lot, but I've been getting back into like not cartoons, like anime and shit. He's on some Dragon Ball Z stuff. Like it seems like he just keeps hitting a different level. Like when you think, okay, he might start to play a little worse or plateau, he does something else. Like that run makes everything he's been doing with all these goals even more insane, because it's like, holy crap, he just did something up a whole different level. So I think he's doing that, and it excites me because I think there's still room for him to grow. For example, like if he can get at least to somewhere of average and putting some crosses in and stuff like that, that'll take his game to a whole nother level, because now defenders would have to start respecting his crossing ability, which will just open up more for us to see more things like that goal. So yeah, I think it's probably is the form of his life, but I think especially with Ten Hag, maybe I'm being a little optimistic. I think there's a lot more to come if he stays on this type of path.
Yeah, and John, I want to come to you first, and then you can have kind of your say on this as well, because obviously, John, we've spoken a lot about Rashford over the last kind of 18, 20, 2 years, 18 months, 2 years. Everyone knows my thoughts on it. I didn't think he was the level that some fans were hyping him up to, but he's not getting far off that level that some fans think he's getting to now. And the reason why I asked this question about form of his life, because obviously Rashford in particular was a big part of that Ollie front three that went on. I know it was during the lockdown season, if you will, but that Rashford, Martial, Bruno, he won't be named, previous number 11, that front 3 or 4 really was absolutely phenomenal. So, John, for yourself, is this Rashford's best form right now, or do you think that it's just another good little stage for him?
No, I think it's his best form, and you have to remember he's 25 years old, so he's coming into his prime now. So for me, yes, he was brilliant. When was it? I think it was Solskjaer's first full season, wasn't it? So around three years ago, wasn't it? So for me, yes, he is. I think the important thing he's developing, which he's not doing before, is the consistent goal scoring. He scored in 9 consecutive games at Old Trafford, which is a record equal to Dennis Violent. So if he scores against Reading, he'll be the first player to ever score in 10 consecutive games at Old Trafford. And I think prior to that, he never scored in more than 4 consecutive games. So he is developing that consistency. And it's not just him scoring goals, he's scoring great goals. He's the one last night was brilliant. The one at Arsenal was superb. The early round against Burnley as well. They're almost identical, albeit on different sides of the pitch. So for me, he's developing that consistency. And for me, what Ten Hag said is right when he's like, he's almost unplayable at the moment. I still think he can be better. Like you take the Forest goal, which was given offside, he did give the ball away there. So for me, I still think he could be a little bit tidier. But when he's running at defenders, it's just absolutely brilliant to see Rashford in this form. And yes, others need to raise their game. But yeah, Rashford is just, I've never seen him as brilliant as this before.
And Stu, for yourself, how do you kind of rate Rashford at the moment? Because I still don't think he's on the level. I know the running joke is comparing him to Mbappe. I still don't think he's on that level. I think that's another league of player that you're talking about there. But Rashford's certainly putting himself in the conversation on the European stage now because he's scored 10 in 10. And as John said there, he's not just scoring goals, he's scoring exceptional goals as well on top of that. So how would you rate his overall kind of game at the moment?
The problem... Be careful. I need to choose my words carefully here because the problem with form is, and that people are saying, yeah, it's the best form of his life. It isn't the best form of his life, etc., etc. Is you got to be really, really careful about how you discuss form because when you look at where he was 18 months ago to where he is today to where he was 2-3 years ago, there's a huge trajectory of brilliant to shocking. I mean, there really is this kind of oscilloscope wave that you see. Sometimes you want to see it flatline because you want to see just consistency. And he hasn't delivered consistency to this point where he is delivering consistency. But herein lies the issue, and Hammer kind of touched on it but didn't delve into it, and I was hoping he would. The issue is that when this type of form hits you, you become almost blinkered to what you can do as opposed to what you should do. And I talk about this all the time, don't I, with Garnacho. Absolutely blinkered, gone to attack. When there are occasions where at 25 now, Rashford should be looking around and thinking, okay, I've penetrated as far as I can go here. Now I need to do something with it. And the reason I mentioned Hammer is because he was talking about his crossing ability. We don't know if he's got any kind of crossing ability at all.
I think he does.
He probably does, but when does he really put a cross in?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't. He tries to get into the penalty area. Now, some would argue that's what he's supposed to do. But there have been occasions this season as well when he's been on this rich vein of form where we have given up opportunities where he's carried the ball a little bit too far or tried to make the best of his own opportunity rather than looking around and seeing what's around. So to become a truly great player, and I'm not going to use the phrase world class because I hate it, but to become a truly great player, and I speak about it all the time. People laugh at me. It's your eyes and your ears. It's your eyes and your ears that make you a truly great player. And Mbappe has this same issue. He has this same issue of getting into these positions, penetrates well, and sometimes fluffs the chance. Neymar's the same. Neymar will do all the intricate stuff outside the area. And there could be a ball into Mbappe in the box or Messi in the box where there's a better option. And this is where Marcus needs to really up his game. So for the casual eye, absolutely 100% agree. He's on a rich vein of form. Special one's talking about giving you a contract. Yeah, absolutely. We should tie him down. There's absolutely no two ways about it. That's great business sense, and we should do that. He's got 17 months left, and I think we should do it in the summer. Don't do it now, do it in the summer, and we should tie him down. But he's got to add to his game. Now, Garnacho's added to his game recently. We've all seen that. There's almost an end result there with him. Rashford's got to do it. Anthony, on the flip side, has got to equally match what Marcus is doing. He's got to look and see what's Rashford doing that I'm not. What can I do to get up to the level of Rashford? And it's just ears and eyes. Listen and learn. Watch. That's what these guys should be doing. As I said to you before, with the games coming up thick and fast, there won't be a great deal of training going on because people are recovering. Yeah. They're trying to recover before matches. And it was evident against Arsenal, as good as we played, we were tired in periods. And we were tired again in periods against Forest last night. So we've just got to be mindful of those. But that's just my take on it. And that's why I thought it was important what you said, Hammer. And I was waiting for you to elaborate on it because you're right. You're absolutely right. It's you've got to elevate yourself now.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Well, a couple things now, but the first one was on the same Rashford thing, and the reason I said it was the reason that I said I think he can. It's a very small sample size, because to the point where I can't tell you specific games, but I've seen right, like I've seen him put some crosses in. But
Yeah.
the reason I'm confident he can put that into his arsenal in a consistent way is because the ones that he put in, right, like some of the crosses were like dropped in between the center backs. I'm like, yeah, our wingers don't do that at all right now. If we can, and then now, especially in this second half of the season with who we just brought in, his speed kills me. I feel like I could speed walk faster than Weghorst sometimes. Jesus Christ! But in the box, like after he scored that goal, when they were all celebrating, I was like, dude, he's got 3-4 inches on everybody on the team, even Casemiro. So if we can start putting some of those crosses in to that big ass head of his, it'll be work. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Tell you what, talking to Weghorst though, the speed of recovery that he put that ball in the back of the net last night.
Reaction time.
I'll tell you what,
on his toes.
It was a brilliant finish as well.
It was a hell of a finish. You can't underestimate how good that goal was. It's a phenomenal strike. Really, really pleased for him. I'm really pleased for him.
I want to get on to Weghorst actually in a second. That was obviously he scored the second goal, but I wanted to get on to him as well. But someone agreeing with you here, Stu. Rashford's all individual link-up play on the left still poor and kind of cross. But I think that's where I start. I think he's such a good player. If he can just tweak those little individual, those team kind of thing, like you mentioned, the crossing, his decision making at times. I do feel like he's clearly got the confidence. I'd love for the fact that he runs at players and things like that. But sometimes I'm thinking you don't need to do it every single time. Like there's a time and a place to keep trying, run at players and all that kind of thing. But sometimes there's a better option. We saw that, I think, a little bit yesterday. And Weghorst actually turned around at one point, just fully swung his arm at him because he was getting annoyed that the ball wasn't coming into him.
Did you watch? Have you seen Weghorst's movement, by the way, off the ball?
I want to get to that in a second.
On Monday's show, actually.
Yeah, one thing I would say about Rashford, by the way, is what Hammer was saying in his opening statement about, wow, I was off my chair, I was buzzing. That's what Rashford can give you. Yeah. He gives you that, doesn't he? The goal against Arsenal was phenomenal. It was a wonderful strike, absolutely brilliantly worked as well. And then last night's individual effort is great, and he does get you off your seat, doesn't he? But football's a lot more than just running and seeing where it goes.
I think what he has improved also is that he's getting a few more poachers goals now as well.
Yes, indeed. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's leaner.
And just real quick to dab on the crossing thing, like this is just the way I think it's just how I think of some sports too. Hey, this is the way I think he's capable of it, right? It's not that he can't cross. If he can hit a shot with that right foot like that, he could put a cross in with that right foot. He has the quality.
Don't disagree at all. I think you're right.
That kind of leads us on nicely into Weghorst, actually, because I want the question I've got written down is kind of the team understanding the impact that he can have on the wider game. Because looking at the way that he played, like I said, he was getting a bit frustrated, I think, in the first half. There was so many opportunities where the ball either didn't come through to him on the floor. There was a couple of crossing opportunities that just didn't come into the box. Obviously, he got his goal, which is a well-taken goal as well. So I'm really happy that he's off the mark. But I'll just come into each of you. Whoever wants to go first this one. I know, Stu, you've just mentioned Weghorst, so I don't know whether you want to go first. It's just his impact on the team, because I don't think the team quite understands his role in it yet. But he's certainly, I think the main thing for me is he's dragging defenders out of the way. That's the
100%. I was about to say that. Yeah, that's what he's doing. Look, you know what I think. You know what I like in a striker. You know where I think they should live. They should live in the, the 12 yards from the penalty spot to the goal. Look, Weghorst isn't that type of striker. I think we all know that. But his link-up play and his hold-up play, but his movement is phenomenal. Now, Hammer will know this being a centre-half. It's the worst thing. If you get tight to him, if you get tight to a centre-half and Weghorst has the ball, lays it off, okay, and he decides to go right, it's easy for Hammer to put his arm out and stop him manoeuvring. Stop it. So stop the ball getting into Weghorst. What Weghorst does really, really well, he'll off the ball and he'll flip the other side, which is a nightmare for a defender. Your defender's either got to do a 360 turn to try and get him, or he's got to back pedal to try and stop him. It's an absolute nightmare. He's rapid with his movements. So he's there, he's like pointing all the time. This is where I want it. So Garnacho's got the ball on the left or Palestri on the right. He's making moves. His head is looking all the time. Where can I be? Where can I drag a defender? And what he'll do, he'll run 2 yards, 3 yards to the right, stop, and then he'll flip behind the defender to then hopefully get across, or he'll come from behind the defender and flip in. It's a really interesting way of attacking the ball. But Hammer said, we're not getting the crosses in, so we're not utilising him. You cannot underestimate hold-up play in football. It's absolutely pivotal. Even when you're counter-attacking, it's still great to have hold-up play. Because as long as you move it within 1 or 2 passes from receiving it and you're on your bike, that's what stretches the play. And this is what Weghorst is doing brilliantly. I thought second half, you're quite right. I thought they've struggled, or we have struggled in the past to kind of understand what Weghorst's role is in the team. But I'm telling you now, when he put his goal in last night, his movement, his sharpness, his ability to read the game, he was on the move quicker than anyone else in that box. He'll score 10 goals for us, at least. He's a big movement for us. I like him. I like him.
Yeah, I mean, John, how do you feel about Weghorst's performance yesterday and just kind of his role in the team? Because, Stu mentioned hold-up play there. There was a good opportunity, but I think it was fell to Anthony, I think it was. Weghorst kind of linked the play up on the edge of the box. Do you think it's just about the team understanding his role? Because we've not really had, obviously Ronaldo was a different type of striker. Cavani was probably the last one that maybe was our proper striker like this anyway. So, I mean, John, what did you think on Weghorst yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he was super. I think he's done reasonably well in all 3 of his games. I mean, I made the point on Monday, so you look at the Palace and the Arsenal games. Obviously, the Bruno goal at Palace and Rashford's goal were obviously 2 brilliant goals. But neither goal would have been scored if it wasn't Weghorst's movement, because he was the Palace one. He took them away, which allowed Eriksen put it back to Bruno, took a touch find it in. Rashford, he makes that movement. I think it's Gabriel moves to the side, and that gives that gap which Rashford can hit. So for me, his movement has been very good and contributed to 2 goals before yesterday. As for yesterday, it was obviously a classic poacher's goal. He was obviously behind the defender. You could argue the defenders were a bit slow to react, but you think it's not in any danger. But then all of a sudden, bang, he gets the goal. I think the consequence of the team, I don't think they're understanding his runs at the moment and his off-the-ball movement. Partly, as we touched upon a moment ago, about the, we're not really training a lot at the moment because we're playing game after game after game. It'd be good if we could have, a week off at some point, just so then I can, properly do some proper training with the team, and for me that's what the team will benefit from. But yeah, I think he's done well so far, and I think as the season goes on, I think the team will hopefully start to understand this game a bit more.
I think first of all, I'll say one of the things that Stu was talking about as well as a center back. The way I played is I like to be able to read the game. So like I would take, just like how some people talk about when people talk about midfielders, right? Like those really top class midfielders, the freaking Xavis, the Iniestas, those guys, how they scan all the time, right? Casemiro, I'm sure, scans all the time, all that type of stuff. I did that as a center back, mainly for the attackers, right? So I'd like to know, okay, do you like to hang out behind me? Do you like to be over here? Where do you like to be? And that is, Stu is right. Weghorst would freaking drive me insane because he doesn't stop moving, right? So like I'll take a look and he might be here, but then 2 seconds later he's going to be on the other side, and I'm going to think that there's a certain type of pass coming, but it's going to be a different pass, and that's going to screw everything up. I think with his hold-up play, one of the best things that's going to start happening, and I know you guys are talking about all the recent games might be a problem with learning this, but I also kind of think it might be helpful, right? Because they're going to have to learn, and it's going to be in-game, real-time game learning, and then they're going to pick it up that way, which I like to see. And I think Weghorst is another player that's been brought in that has football intelligence. And not to be a dick to some of our previous teams, but that was one of the things that a lot of us complained about, that they didn't have that link-up intelligence and decision-making. And what I can't wait to see, because I think is going to happen, is Weghorst is going to get one of those flick-ons with Bruno. Right now, Weghorst and Bruno are running into each other all the time. But if they can start communicating, and I've seen him do it already a couple times, I believe in this past game too, but he might have done the other games. Because of his height, he can jump and get those flick-on headers. Bruno loves to make his runs in behind. If they can start communicating, a long pass from the defense, a long pass from maybe De Gea, if he can put one on target, or a long pass from like Casemiro, with Bruno and him communicating, I can't wait to see a goal where he flicks one onto Bruno running past the defense, because Bruno's going to know that flick-on's coming.
It's sorry, Hammer, to cut you off, but it's a really, really good observation about him and Bruno going into this same area again. Bruno has this issue. If you ever notice, it seems to be the polar. It's like opposites attract. It's like two magnets. It's a nightmare, isn't it? The way that Bruno operates. When you've got Casemiro and Eriksen in there, Bruno should be operating a lot more centrally in what he does, and then stay away from Weghorst. I said against Arsenal we should have gone with a 4-2-2-2. And that we should have allowed Rashford and Weghorst just to play across the top by themselves. Allow then Bruno and Eriksen to play behind them, and try and get some momentum on the width that way. And then you could have played McTominay and Fred, or McFred, unfortunately, etc. But you would have offered Arsenal a lot more of an issue, because we've overloaded the midfield, and then you've still got outlets in Weghorst, and you've still got outlets in Rashford. And I think Weghorst can do that. I think he can play in a 4-2-2-2. I also think he can play the lone striker. Jarvis is right. He's not quite up to pace yet. Palestri's cross was brilliant, and Weghorst did get a really good header on it. He just wasn't quite there. It's fractions. It's all fractions.
There was that one that he only just missed, wasn't it? Where the defender just pulled him back slightly, wasn't it?
But the interesting thing about Palestri at the moment is he's getting there, and he's whipping the balls and he's crossing the balls. He looks a serious talent, does our Palestri. Yeah. Oh, Ben Pearce will be loving that, because he loves him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, just to throw this comment out there, does anyone agree with this one? I'm very close. I'm not convinced he'll get many goals. Don't forget Forest left. I mean, they did. That's factually correct. They did. But on the Weghorst league,
he's going to get half his goals like his Forest goals. So he is going to get a decent amount of goals.
He is. Forest have got to concentrate on the Premier League.
Yeah.
The Carabao Cups are nothing to them. It's a distraction. They don't need it.
The only time will tell. I think you also got to factor in that he hasn't. He's practically being thrown in at the deep end. He's signed, and then within 2 days he's playing a game, isn't he? And then playing another game, and obviously Arsenal and Palace aren't the easiest games to be introduced. I think he's done okay. I think hopefully, I do think he'll get a few goals though once he gets used to him.
He'll score.
No, 100%. You mentioned, obviously, we spoke about Rashford a bit earlier. We are going to get onto the Reading preview in a second, but a player that I didn't think played too bad yesterday, and the only other player that I wanted to briefly talk about, on the other side, obviously, we've got Anthony. Now, he's been very hit and miss with fans at the moment. He seems to be the talk of everybody. It seems like after every game, everyone's just reviewing his performance alone. But just your kind of brief thoughts on how Anthony did yesterday, because I feel like he needed a good game, because he's fallen out of, or I don't know why, but he's fallen out of favour already. With certainly amongst fans, don't seem to be too convinced by him. The price tag obviously doesn't help his case, but that's not really down to him anyway. But Hammer, starting with yourself, what did you think of Anthony yesterday and kind of his wider form for us at the moment? Because he's been a bit hit and miss recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, so I think yesterday was a little bit better. I think he's starting to do what some people were asking for. There were some people getting frustrated because sometimes with an attack, he'll go down the sideline, and then instead of just running at the guy, he'll pull up and then pass back or something. So I think he's trying to be a little more direct. His left-footedness is killing him at the moment. If they give him the space, sure, he can get a shot off, but he doesn't need to be. He's not even putting in crosses with his left foot. Even if you put in a cross from that angle with someone like Weghorst, he'll still get a touch on it or something in the box, right? So I think he's playing better, but I understand the frustration by fans. He can't just be a one-trick pony yet, or if he is going to be a one-trick pony, he's got to turn it up to a whole different level and start beating people and using that left foot like a freaking Robin, right? Like if you're going to be a one-trick pony, that's the level you got to be to do that. But then also he needs to be smart. I know he's brought it with the 100 million. I know Ten Hag trusts him, but we've all been happy with what Ten Hag seems to do, and that is he doesn't care. He'll drop you even if he likes you. And Sancho's going to be coming back. And then everybody, the young kid we're all talking about right now, Palestri, if he starts connecting on some of those crosses, it's going to put Ten Hag in a position to start thinking. So I think he's doing better. But I think for the first time in a while, we have competition, especially in that right wing area, where he's got to start producing a little more. And it doesn't necessarily have to be goals and assists, even though we would all want that. But like, be the person who causes the link up, right? Be the person who causes the 1, 2, 3 passes to get to just like with that goal that landed at his feet, but it got saved, right? You don't got to always be the guy on the end of that goal. If you can be the guy who starts that or causes those quick link ups, I think a lot of fans, even the ones that are getting a little upset, would be okay with that level. Of course, eventually you got to start getting the goals and assists. But if you're gonna be struggling and, like you said, being hit and miss, start producing in those ways more.
Yeah, I mean, Stu, for yourself, is that what we need to see more from Anthony? Obviously, particularly with Weghorst on the team now. Like I said, I think he did well yesterday. Well, no, I think he was just good. I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was excellent. He was just kind of, again, another 6 or 7. But what do you think he needs to do? Obviously, talking about Palestri there, obviously Garnacho potentially as well. Hammer mentioned Sancho coming back as well if he can hit some kind of form. What do you think on Anthony as a whole, and particularly after yesterday's game?
He's he's one of those players that is predictable, where you need to be unpredictable. It's relatively straightforward. If you're left back, you're not really afraid of Anthony coming at you, and that's not what it should be like. You should be kind of petrified. You should be Luke Shaw against Saka. You should be worried about what Saka's going to do to you. How am I going to stop Saka today? Defenders aren't looking at it and thinking, how am I going to stop Anthony? The only thing I've got to stop with Anthony is making sure I don't allow him to cut in on his left foot to get the swerve, the curling strike that he scored 2 or 3 goals on this season. Marking him is quite straightforward. He doesn't take his back. He doesn't take the ball, with his back to goal that often. He doesn't step and hold the byline that often. You really do need to do that as a winger. You need to give yourself as much space as you possibly can to operate in. And then you've got to make sure that once you've got the ball, you know exactly what you're going to do with it. People will say, yeah, well, he's all left foot, so we'll just show him down on the right. That's absolutely fine. That's where you've got to be clever. So if you allow a defender to run side by side with you, it's quite easy for the defender to keep pushing down the line. You've got to be able to stop, not turn back, but you've got to be able to kind of slow your run down, kind of kid the defender so you can cut in that way. So you can cut in behind the defender. It's a very, very difficult task to do. Rashford does it, if you remember. Rashford does it quite a lot. When Rashford cuts in, he's kidded the defender. The defender's still going towards the byline. Rashford's cut in behind him. Anthony needs to start looking at doing that. If he can do that, 2 things will happen. A, he'll improve as a footballer for a start. But B, we'll either get a penalty or there'll be a foul in and around the box. Okay, so he's causing 2 plays. He's causing 2 positive bits of play. And thirdly, if there is no foul, there is no penalty, he's penetrated the box. He's then going to make sure he gets the crossing. So at this point in time, if you're a left back, you're not overly worried about him. But if if he changes his game up, he becomes unpredictable, forgets all the step overs, which I know everybody loves, etc., and just concentrates on the basics of football, everything else will come with it. Everything else will arrive at your feet. Suddenly, all of a sudden, it'll be, yeah, I can do a little trick because I'm feeling better about myself. I don't think he's feeling good about himself. His body language doesn't suggest he's feeling good about himself. Cut your fucking hair, get it shaved, get rid of that fucking blonde shit. Just get it off, get it shaved. Go back to basics, become your fucking caveman, because Anthony's the type of player, and I think he's come out and said it, hasn't he? Anthony's the type of player, run home from school, and I go out with my bare feet on the streets or on a pebble pitch or whatever. Get back to that. Start looking at what you're interested in doing. When you look at Palestri at the minute, Palestri's got this, I want to improve. I know where my strengths are, so I use my strengths. Don't use my weaknesses, I use my strengths. And when we're not playing, I'll practice on my weaknesses. Anthony's just got to do that. He's just got to refine himself rather actually what we said about Rashford. You know, he had to refine himself this season. It was make or break for Rashford, wasn't it, this season? It clearly isn't make or break for Anthony. I'm not saying that. But if I was him in the summer, I would go away and I would just try and look at myself, look at my natural game first, work on my natural game, work at what I'm good at, and then I'll add, you know, the sprinkle, the stardust, whatever you want to call it later. So that's how I see it. People are worried about his money. That's just Man United being mugged off. It was our own fault. You know, he was a £40 million player, and we could have got him for 40 million quid, couldn't we? We all know that. So we only paid 90 million because we dicked about. So it's our own fault for that. So I don't think the price tag is pushing it down. Dave 147, by the way, he's absolutely right. He hasn't got a right foot. But anyone who knows me, Dave, and these lads do, know that I constantly preach that a professional footballer should be two-footed. I cannot accept a single-footed player. And I know before anyone says, oh, Giggsy was only left-footed, I know, and he had a crap right foot, and he did. He had a shit right foot. We know that. But Giggsy delivered. Giggsy got to the byline, and he delivered. He crossed. He delivered. So, but I agree with your point. He you know, he's got a single foot. It's kind of went round the houses, but I hope you get what I was talking about.
Yeah, right. I think he definitely needs to improve it. He does have a right foot, he just doesn't use it. That's the issue. Yeah. But no, for me, he needs to be a bit more unpredictable. He needs to, you know, from time to time take the full back on that. And for me, he's got a very good left foot. You know, he has scored some brilliant goals on his left foot this season. I don't think it's been as terrible as what some have made out. He has 5 goals in about, 14 appearances, so it's not terrible by any means. But for me, I think, again, it's maybe a consequence of playing so many games that not getting the time on the training field, perhaps. Obviously, you got to be responsible for your own individual performances and that. But
and your training. You can
training.
You can train at home, John. You can train at home.
Yeah,
Guys have got big enough gardens, haven't they? They during COVID, they were all out there giving it the big one, weren't they? You know, Trent Alexander just kicking a ball into a bin, thinking he was the bollocks. He's a fucking professional footballer, mate. Do one.
I think it also.
They've got enough space in their back garden, John. I
completely agree. And my point, and also when he was at Ajax, for example, he was putting the ball into the box. You're not seeing that at United. So I do think it's a complex thing with him, and I think him and Vegas, if he works on it, they could have a good partnership. If he somehow got back to the form he had at whipping that ball in, Vegas would be perfect, you know, to whip it in. So I do think it does come down to him. I do think, as Senag said, he does need to play more direct, but you also have to factor in he's the only left footer we have as well in the forward line as well. So I think that's Senag will look at that for balance reasons. But for me, but I think patience is key with him. I won't write him off at the moment, but he certainly needs to up his game.
No, I tend to agree with the points made. And I just put it in the chat. That's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Edison.
I was going to say that.
He had terrible hair as well. Crikey.
I was going to say, one of the first players I remember watching, because that's kind of my early 2000s, one of him, mid 2000s and so on. So yeah, I remember it very well.
We were linked with him. We were going to buy him, weren't we? Before he went to Blackburn.
I'm assuming he's retired now. He's got.
No, Jarvis says he's playing in level 3 Norwegian football.
Oh, really? I have a friend in work who's a Blackburn fan. I always talk about former players like Tugai and all that, and he was a really good player.
I'll tell you, he was decent as well with a two-footed. David Bentley, very good two-footed footballer. Very good, brilliant crosser. Absolutely brilliant crosser.
Yeah.
More than Gams Pedersen.
Yeah, he is right. Yeah, he's been at Asana. I hope I've said that right. He's played 14 games in 2 years, though, or 18 months, I should say. So, and he's 41 now. But there we are.
Still young. What's his problem?
Still young. Maybe not in football terms. I know you still play, Stu.
Stanley Matthews played into his 50s, didn't
And
he?
rightly so, John. You're never too old to play. You're never too old to play.
Absolutely.
We'll move on to Reading then for the final kind of 20 minutes because there's not too much to cover from a Reading point of view. As I said to these guys before, they're kind of they're 14th in the Championship. Lost 4-0 to Stoke at the weekend, so not ideal for them. But the Championship is so unpredictable at the moment. Teams are beating, teams in the playoffs and then losing to bottom of the league. It's a crazy league at the moment, the Championship. So can't read too much into recent results. But the question I've got for each of you to start with is obviously on about rotation. We're kind of just at the start now of this 10 games. I think it is in 33 days or something ridiculous that we've got now. We're just at the start of that. Well, obviously, Arsenal was the start of this kind of run that we've got. So we're expecting rotation on Saturday. The question I've got for each of you is how much rotation? Well, it's kind of split into two. How much do you want to see and how much do you think we're going to see? So, Hammer, I'll start with yourself. Those two things there. How much do you want to see? How much do you think we're going to?
Well, I'll go off a little bit of what Tenak said. I think in the pregame for this Forest game, and he said, there's always going to be some rotation, but nothing significant, which I kind of understand because in certain positions on the team, there's a decent amount of drop off. So I think there is going to be a little bit of rotation, but to be honest, because I wasn't sure how the games lined up, but I knew there was a lot coming, so I looked it up a little bit earlier, and it's this, and then the second leg of Forest. And then Crystal, right? So I actually think there's not going to be a lot of rotation in this one because it's another cup game. So he's going to go strong again, win the FA Cup game, rotate in the second leg of the Forest game because we're 3-0, but and rest there because he's going to want to rest for the Palace game after the Forest game. So that's what I think this one's going to be. And honestly, I kind of would like to see that. I don't want to see any crazy rotation because, like everybody's been talking about, this team needs a cup. And, and I know some people might not like me saying this, but, some people I think are still holding on to some potentialness of some league thing. I don't think it's possible. I think it's out of our hand at this point. It would have to mean a huge freaking drop-off from Arsenal and City for us to compete for a league. So for me, league-wise, it's honestly top three. I think we need to keep our spot. If we can keep it consistent, we'll keep our top three spot, not just top four. And then at least I might be greedy 2 of these cups that we're still in. Right, so for me, it's either I would like a Europa League, but I would like Europa League and one of these cups, or you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't do too much rest because it's another cup game to advance in, and plus we can rest in the following game because it's the second leg of a 3-0 lead that we have. So,
all right, John, I'll come to you first on this one because just looking at the fixtures there, Hammers obviously said about the Forest game next week. Obviously, we've already got an advantage of that. Then we've got Palace, then we've got Leeds twice, then the Europa League kicks back off with Barcelona. So, that's all in the space of 16 days, which is mental. So it's every time I look at our fixture, I'm like, how the hell are we going to get through all of these? But there we are. To be honest, I'm more worried about the All for United schedule. When I was looking at it, I was like, oh my God, we've got another game there, another game, trying to fit in around games at the moment. But John, for yourself, what do we do against Reading, do you think? Because there's not too much concern for. Obviously, there's always an upset on the cards, potentially. They're coming to Old Trafford, nothing to lose. They can go full out against us. But what do you expect to see and what do you want to see in terms of rotation?
I think what I want is, I think what Ten will do, I think it'll still go relatively strong against Reading. I agree with Hammer. I think most rotation will possibly come in the second leg of the Forest game because then that'll allow some of the players to have, a week off. Ahead of the Palace game, or play a limited minutes against Forest. So for me, I think Ten will want to prioritise the FA Cup first season. He'll want to win it. Both of those, as much as we're favourites for the League Cup, there's no guarantees we'll win it. So you'll obviously want to still be in the FA Cup. So I think he might make a couple of changes. I personally think Harry Maguire will probably get a start. Obviously Lindelof got run out yesterday, and I think Maguire might play. I expect maybe Garnacho will start one of the next couple of games as well. Just give him a few minutes and that. But I still think it wouldn't surprise me if he almost stuck with the same level. He might possibly give someone like Jack Butland the game as well, because if you're not going to if you're going to sign a player like him on loan, you might as well play him either against Reading or Nottingham Forest. So for me, it wouldn't surprise me if we changed the goalkeeper, perhaps. But yeah, I wouldn't. I think maybe 3 changes, possibly maximum 4.
I completely forgot we'd signed Butland until you just mentioned his name, and it's what I still don't understand that one.
Well, it might be Heat. It might be Heat. I mean, if you're not, it makes sense to play one of the next 2 games, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd be amazed if it's De Gea in either, to be honest. With the lead that we've got against Forest, and obviously Reading being a lesser opposition, albeit we've got to tread with some caution. But Stu, for yourself, what kind of changes, again, same question, do you want to see, and what do you think Ten Hag will make? Because I think, as Jarvis said, there's a few players that should hopefully get a rest in one of these. Eriksen, Varane, Casemiro, Bruno, Shaw, and Rashford, to name a few on there. Are they the kind of players that you think could be missing from Saturday's game in particular, or do you think he'll play them this Saturday and then rest next Wednesday?
I'd changed a lot this week, and so the team that I played Saturday, I'd play Wednesday. So there'd be no Casemiro, Varane, there'd be no one Bruno, nothing. There'd be 0. I'd have 2 Nzabi and a right back, for example. I'd have Butland in or Heaton in goal. Left back, I'd run Malacia, to be fair, but I'd change it completely. You run the team that you play Saturday, you run that on Wednesday, because the lads are right. Wednesday's pretty much done. I can't see Forest coming with a strong side. Forest are looking to stay in the Premier League. That's what they're looking to do, So I would make a raft of changes, and I would make sure that when we face Palace, these players are rested. Because as soon as we play Palace, I think that we hop off to Barcelona for the Barcelona match. That's the key one for us.
Leeds, won't it?
Oh, we've got Leeds as well. Crikey, I forgot about that. Yeah, because it's rearranged fixtures, isn't there? I keep forgetting about
it. Subject to no 4th-round replays, though. So possibly if Leeds get a replay, or even us online.
Well, yeah, I know. So I would go. I would look. I'd love to see Palestri go at Reading. Give Weghorst another run out. Weghorst needs games at the minute. You've got to play McFred at some point. Casemiro gets injured or whatever. You're going to have to play McFred at some point. Just get embedded back in for 2 games that they should dominate in midfield. And rest the players that we need. Eriksen's looking tired at the minute. He needs a break. Casemiro will argue that, I didn't play against Arsenal, but, just take you back out of the equation. Bruno needs a break. We've got players on the bench that should be good enough to beat Reading and should be good enough to make us get us through to the final. So I've made quite a load of changes, and I would play those on the Saturday and the Wednesday, and then bring the lads back to the team. You can almost run, and this is where kind of astute football managers and cute football managers can really make a big squad to their advantage. Because you can push Eriksen, Casemiro, you can make them train, by themselves. A bit of a specialised program for a week, get them refocused, get them fit, get them stronger. They don't need to be in and around the FA Cup and the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. So that's what I would do, and I would look at it from there. Maybe even get Anthony in as well, get his confidence. I hate the word confidence, but get him focused a bit more. But
I was just going to throw Sancho into the mix as well. We don't know how match fit he is. This would be the kind of.
If he is ready, then you got to get him in next.
Yeah, give these players a go. You could play Palestri in the 10. I would imagine. I think he played F. Alaves a couple of times. You could play Palestri in the 10.
I think the only place I would disagree, I don't know, I think you would need one of the top guys in the midfield. I don't trust the rest of our midfield.
No, I agree. I do agree. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, but I wouldn't play Casemiro at Reading.
Against Reading, no, yeah.
I wouldn't bother with him in the second half. I would have him on the bench, obviously, just in case he got a bit twitchy, but it's not going to.
I mean, you've also got to factor in the players who were and weren't at the World Cup as well.
Yeah.
So sure you got to give Casemiro the solid.
You have a squad of 25. You have a squad of 25 for a reason. Yeah. Use that squad. Now's the time to use the squad. So it's a bit drastic. But if we can't beat Reading, with our squad, come on, you got.
I was going to say, I found it interesting against Forest. Brandon Williams was back on the bench. So whether that's an indication into whether he's going to start on Saturday. If he doesn't start Saturday, I fully expect him to be involved next Wednesday with the league.
I could see not a whole squad, but a majority squad of youth players for the second leg.
Do we think Ten Hag will trust to make so many changes? Will he trust?
You've got him.
Yeah, but I do think he will specifically.
This is a football manager. This is where you earn your big bucks.
But I think it's because
in the changing room, I'm saying, listen here, lads. We've got 10 games in February. Okay, you cannot rely on those lads there. You've got to fucking step up. Step up. And I want to step up. I'll be banging Ten Hag's door. Look, I haven't played for 3 games. I want to play Saturday, Sunday, whenever we play Reading. Saturday, isn't it?
Saturday night, yeah.
Yeah, I want to play. I want to play against Reading. I want to play, and I'll play Wednesday as well.
And I think
this is what we need.
I think they're going to. Some of the young guys want that, right? Like Palestri's been here for a few years already. He's only now getting his chance.
2 games for Palestri.
Right? Garnacho, you can see how hungry he is. He wants to stake something. So, Ten Hag will be like, all right, y'all want to go prove something? Here's your 2 games. Go prove something.
Play Palestri twice. If you know, if you know you're playing 2 games, you're playing Saturday and you're playing Wednesday, it's brilliant for your confidence. Your routine changes completely. To Nzabi, because he hasn't played so much, probably dicks about. He's probably half-hearted in the way that he's coming in, the way that he's having his breakfast, the way that he's training. Well, I'm not going to play, so why do I do it? Right, Axel, you're playing Saturday and you're playing Wednesday. Fucking get on it, mate. And that's what you need. Same with Brandon Williams. I forgot about Brandon Williams, Colin, but same as Brandon Williams.
So did I, to be fair.
I don't know why I thought he was on loan.
Jarvis is right. He's not named. Jarvis is right, by the way. Ten Hag isn't named for his.
That's why I think for him, he'll probably play a strong team again.
These are different circumstances. These are circumstances he won't come across before.
Yeah, well, also for me, I like I said, I think the big rotation would be the second leg. But I think he would trust some young guys to get a job.
You've got to start sprinkling. Look, these guys are Manchester United first team players or squad members for a reason. A reason. You're there for a reason.
I think it'll also be good. Some of the fringe players, can. If he plays Ansi, can he get a couple of goals? That'll give him a bit of confidence.
Vegos scores again on Saturday.
Yeah. So some of those, when you're saying about players scoring goals and that, we're relying too much on Rashford, get a couple of the players, scoring a couple of the goals, give them confidence, a couple of clean sheets, that kind of thing. So,
I don't know if I just haven't been paying attention. Do we know what's up with Martial, Dallo? Why have they been missing for a few games?
Dallo's got he had a calf injury, I think, or a hamstring injury at the World Cup, and he's not recovered. Martial,
nobody. I think he was rushed back in the derby, wasn't he?
Yeah, Dallo was. Yeah, Martial.
Martial.
Well, actually, I'll say, but I think Martial. I didn't realize it might have been the same thing. One game where he got subbed off, but this was a few games ago. Now he did
when I put our time, he was injured. He was injured.
Yeah,
he was injured.
I think. Like I said, I agree with what everyone's saying, and I agree with Jarvis what you're saying. It's not known for rotation, but as Stu said, this is untrue. We're gonna if we get through in the FA Cup and the Europa League, we're gonna have 2 games a week for the majority of the rest of the season if we go far in the cups. Which leads me on. In fact, I'll just quickly answer this question before I kind of go on a little bit. Does anyone here think that there's a case for trying Martinez at DM at some point? Because centre back is a place that we do have a bit of cover. We obviously got Maguire, Lindelof, Varane, Martinez, Tuanzebe. I'd love to have Tuanzebe back in the side. Shaw can potentially play it. We've got so many people that can play centre back. Is there a case if we're a bit lighter in midfield to push Martinez maybe a bit further forward and have Fred alongside him or McTominay alongside somebody else? I'll
comment quick in this way. The way you phrased it is important. If there's a case where it's necessary, I know I think they said he's done it a small amount of times in certain points in his career, but I think it'll be risky. He's playing so well at center back, and I get it. He does have that passing ability, but I don't know. Like yesterday, Casemiro was struggling with what's that guy's name? Was it Gibbs White? I think some people said he was because he was hitting them with. I don't know. It'll be a risk, and man, okay. Hulk Hogan.
Oh, Frank Karsick.
on the pitch. Good old Karsick.
I think it'll be a risk, but But like you said, if it isn't a necessity like where Casemiro, I know he would have to get a certain amount of cards now, but right, injury or some type of suspension or something, I might take it just because I was very frustrated with who was it, McTominay, that had to try to replace him, and he really wasn't doing much. So it might, but only if it's necessary to take some big risk like that. Not not as just like a viewing point. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what he might be asking. Just let's see if he can do it. I don't know if I'd do that just to see if he can do it.
I'll just quickly jump in because I'm going to have to shoot. I would try him. Yeah, absolutely. No reason not to try him. A good CDM can fill in at centre half, no problem at all. And there has been centre halves that filled in at centre midfield. And before anyone slams me for Eric Dyer, I'm talking about proper centre halves, not just footballers. The thing about Martinez, he's got the traits to be able to do it because he's got a very, very cultured left foot. He's got a very good range of passing. He can tackle and he can run. So what his positional sense would be like, I don't know, but I would imagine it should be on point. So it's not the worst shout in the world, and he has played CDM for Ajax on a few occasions. So it isn't the worst, the worst shouts. I can't see it on the weekend, and I can't see it on Wednesday.
Jarvis.
Yeah, I would kind of. I would say there's an opportunity, there's an option, but I can't see it happening. So anyway, sorry, chaps, I'm going to go and pick the.
Yeah, enjoy. Thanks for coming on, Stuart.
So yeah, thanks, guys. I'll see you later, boys.
Have a good one.
Nice one.
Take care.
Bye.
So Jarvis is saying here, that's too many players, Jarvis, because I believe that's 12. If my counting is correct, that Lindelof 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, we got 5.
Fred, that's 2. Yeah, that's 12, unfortunately.
And where's the goalkeeper?
I was going to say, is Dallo played in goal?
Oh, I didn't even notice the goalkeeper. It's Maguire in goal just because of height.
But if you're listing players that you'd like to see, Jarvis, I think that's probably along the lines of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
That those kinds of players, Maida and Iqbal in there as well. And yeah, Palestri, Garnacho, Alanga as well is another player that could really do with these 2 games to jump in and put in a shift, because you're not going to get too many. Well, we are going to have opportunities, like I just said a minute ago. If we get through them in all competitions, it's 2 games a week for the foreseeable. So we're going to have to get used to this. If we're going to go far in all competitions, which leads me on to my last kind of question before we do score predictions. Do we have the squad to fight on all fronts? It's part of the title, it's part of the thumbnail today. We're obviously aiming for top 4 still in the Premier League. That's looking a little bit easier. We've got a bit of a gap now, but we still have some tough games coming up in the league. We're still in the Europa League. Obviously, we've got Barcelona in that one. We've obviously got the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. So we've got 4 competitions still, and rearranged fixtures and all kinds of things in the Premier League to navigate as well. So just that question, do we have the squad to fight on all fronts, or is something going to have to give? I'm not saying the players are going to go out there and purposely lose, but are we going to have to expect some losses in this run and get knocked out of one of the competitions?
I'm a little hesitant, just because I feel like certain, like I think I said it quickly before. There's certain positions in our squad where we drop off a decent amount in talent, and it depends on, in my opinion, and sometimes we don't get the luck of the draw here, i.e. Barcelona in the fucking Europa League. Sometimes it depends on who we're going to get drawn against, right? If we keep going against, a little bit weaker sides, then yeah, maybe. But, if we get drawn against some big names, for example, in the FA Cup, further down the line, it'll be a little difficult to keep up in all of them. And then I think, of course, the luck of keeping people healthy and not suspended, right? We got some guys like Casemiro, like Martinez, who are very important, but they play a certain level of aggressiveness and can occasionally start picking up cards or things like that. So I think there's a lot of out of control things, but yeah, I'm hesitant to say yes, just because I feel like those drop-offs in certain positions could cost us once we get to the final stages against some of the bigger teams.
John, for yourself? And is there a preferred one for you, just very quickly, if there is one that we're going to drop away from? Or?
You have to go for the League Cup. Ideally, you would want to beat Barcelona, but for me, if I had a choice I personally would say top 4, possibly top 3, and League Cup or FA Cup. I'd take that personally. I think the European one. I mean, if you get knocked out to Barcelona, you'll have so many free weeks, won't you? So, and that's the other thing. So, I think something possibly will have to give at some point. I don't think it has to happen yet, but as Hammer said, we are dependent on some players like Casemiro, like Rashford. Some of the players are going to have to step up at some point, and it is an unusual season because of the World Cup. The squad might wear out. I think we'll get in the top 4. I'm confident. Hopefully, we'll win a trophy. But I think at some point something might have to give, whether that's the Europa League or the FA Cup. I'm not sure. Possibly Europe.
No, it's a fair point. I think, for me, I agree. I just think fans for me, need to temper expectations, I think is the word, going into this period, because we are going to see some drop point. We saw it against Palace. We're gonna be losing or dropping points somewhere along the line in the next few weeks, purely, I just think, because of the amount of games. And I don't personally think we've got the squad to be able to fight on all of them.
And I think that's another thing to remember for some fans. Like, some of our young guys are playing well, but a lot of our rotation pieces are young guys. So, there's only so much we're able to call on if we need to try to scrap up a couple points if we're struggling in the game.
I think also, the FA Cup, if you were to win it, if you get past Reading, you only really need to play, I think it's 4 more games to win it. So it's nothing major. To win Europe, we're going to have to play 8 games or something like that, or 9. I'm not sure, but I do think Europe's the one which could be troublesome for us if it impacts the league and that. But for me, focus on the league always and winning a cup. So
yeah, I tend to agree. And just on this, can we give the League Cup? If we weren't as far as we are, then but now we're pretty much in the final. I'd love to go and win it. It's one of those cups, isn't it, where it's like in the early rounds, if we get knocked down, like, it's only the Carabao Cup. But as soon as you get to the semi-final, I'm like, right, I want to win this.
Well, it's worth noting that Mourinho's first trophy won with both Chelsea and United was the League Cup. Same with Pep Guardiola at City. You do have to start somewhere. So for me, I'm 100%. You're not going to get a better opportunity to win a trophy, and even in the FA Cup, one of Arsenal City's going out this round, aren't they? So you got to focus on that. So for me, you go all out for the League Cup.
Yeah, 100%. Right, we'll do score predictions before we wrap up. Then, how much are we beating Reading by on Saturday, and who are your goal scorers as well? I'll throw that in there.
Oh, if we play well, in terms of like control, which I'm hoping we'll have, because the team has shown that they're capable of doing it in certain types of games and stuff, right? So if we keep control, I want to say 4-0, but I'm going to change it to 4-1 because I think there's going to be rotation potentially both in the defense and in keeper, so we might let one slip. But I think well enough 4-1 to keep it, and without any question. And I think some of the goal scorers are going to be Weghorst. I think is going to play again, and he's going to get a goal, mainly because he should bully whoever's in that box with his 6. What is he? 6'6"? Some ridiculous shit. And then maybe, and I like to see one of the young guys get a go, right? Garnacho, Palestri, somebody like that. Yeah, I don't know who's going to go all for, but I'll go Weghorst first, and then at some point in the game, Garnacho or Palestri to get a goal as well.
John, for yourself?
Yeah, I think it depends on rotation, but I think I'll go 3-0, and I think because we do like scoring 3 at Old Trafford, don't we? And I think Rashford will break the record for 10 successive games at Old Trafford. He'll score in. I think Weghorst might get another, and maybe someone like McTominay, maybe.
Yeah, I can see that.
He always has a random banger in him from outside the box, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, McTominay or Fred, maybe one of them.
I can see that. I think, for me, comfortable 3-0. Garnacho, I think, will probably get on the score sheet. Weghorst, and then I agree, one of the midfielders, McTominay or Fred or somebody like that.
By the way, I was going as high as 4 just because, like I said, I think we'll have control, and there'll be a certain time in the game where we'll just have something easy because they'll be tired, and we'll slip another goal in somewhere or something like that.
Now that would be quite something. that's over a goal every 2 minutes. Now
I think they take it off the TV at that point.
I don't think they'd be broadcasting that. I was just having a look at Reading's team.
Well, what's that goal? Well, Paul Ince is the manager, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is he? Yeah. Well, I was just about to say they've got Tom Ince as their striker. They've got a couple of familiar names from people in the Premier League. Junior Hoylett's over there. Jeff Hendrick. Shane Long is also there as well. So they've got a couple of recognisable names, but nothing I don't think that's going to cause us any harm. Yeah. We watch someone clip this, and I'll be back on Saturday night after we've lost. Jeff Hendrick scored a worldie or something. There we are. But no, we should be getting through this one. Quite a lot of people have just joined the live stream. Unfortunately, we are wrapping this up now. So make sure you go back and watch this on replay. We did cover the Forest game at the start of this, and obviously the second half was more about Reading. Thanks, Hammer. It's great to see you back on the channel. And John, great to have you on as always. And obviously thanks to Stu for joining us a bit earlier on as well. We'll be back on Sunday night for the Reading match reaction. So make sure you tune in for that after we've beaten Reading. Then we've got a couple of specials next week that we've got recorded for you as well. Like I said, match reviews and preview shows are going to be... I don't know when they are at the moment because the schedule is thrown out the window with the amount of games we've got right now. So keep an eye on the Twitter. That's the main thing. The All for United TV at the moment. It is at All for United TV. Make sure you're following that account. That is the new Twitter account moving forward. So make sure you check that out for all the latest stuff on there. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe it. Make sure you're following the women's channel, All for United WFC. And we shall see you in the next one.